So just relating to the non-cyber stuff that Keith has mentioned, before Google existed, we used to get together in the Shomer HaTzair, and that's where we got to know our wives. I do not have a Facebook, so to keep the marriage alive. Okay, moving to the next speaker. It was on this stage, I guess a year ago or 2 years ago, that Prime Minister Netanyahu made a statement that Israel is going to be one of the top 5 in cyber, but it has no intention of being the 5th. So to address that issue, without revealing too many of our national security stuff, I'd like to invite Nadav Zafrir. A few words about Nadav. Nadav served in the last 25 years in various positions in the intelligence division in the Israel Defense Forces. He's been the commander of the unit 8200, which is a great resource for establishing the next generation wave of startups. And recently, he has decided, I guess, to join the gang, become an entrepreneur himself in the high technology space. He's recently established, alongside with my friend Yuval who is sitting here, Team 8. It's a venture creation platform specializing in cybersecurity. Nadav, please.
All right. I'm happy to be here. I actually thought that I would start my talk by speaking about the latest cyber scandal. I don't know if everybody here knows who that is, but the latest scandal has to do with nude photos of celebrities and the iCloud. And if you take a moment to think about all the regular people that had to deal with the moral dilemma of thinking if clicking Jennifer Lawrence and nude photos on Google was morally okay. Of course, we cyber experts, we had to do it. For professional reasons. I actually have to say that my wife overheard me rehearsing for the keynote, and she said that wasn't a very good excuse. But anyways, joke aside, cyber privacy is a very serious issue, and we have to deal with it. But thinking about what I should talk about today, I thought that I should speak about something else. Advanced persistent threat. And the reason that I wanted to speak about advanced persistent threat is the following. First of all, think about advanced persistent threat. It's resources that over time, and critical mass of resources, if you like, over time, directed at a specific entity very persistently in order to get a very specific target. So the first reason I wanted to talk about advanced persistent threat is because I think it's the only threat in cyber, and there's privacy and other issues, but it's the only threat that has the potential of being devastating for an organization. And it's the only threat that I think can actually bring a company to its knees. And guys, let's face it, right now, we don't really have a good solution for it. We don't really have an effective solution for it. And so in Team 8, we've been exploring several cyber domains over the past year. And the one that I personally find most, I'd say, intriguing is advanced persistent threat. And the reason is, unlike other areas in cyber, I think that in advanced persistent threat, it's not about the malware. So the approach that we have right now of trying to pinpoint the tools, the malware, the scripts at the end are missing the big picture because it's not about the malware. It's about the ghost in the machine, if you like. It's about the people and the process behind the malware. Because any malware, at the end of the day, is actually as good as the people behind it. It's as good as the decision-making process that the people behind the malware are capable of. It's about the tenacity, it's about the capacity, it's about the resources that the people behind have, it's about game theory. And in order to sort of try to give you a more specific example, and this has come up already today, I wanted to speak to you about Target. So let's think about it. It's the end of 2013. It's the holiday season. And it's not the best of time for Greg Steinhafel. It's not the best of time for Beth Jacobs. Back then, they were the CEO and CIO of Target. No longer. If you think about the numbers in the attack of Target, so let's think about it. It's about 7 million people, their personal records were disclosed, about 40 million credit cards, 46% drop in the share of Target in the last quarter compared to 2012. And this is the third largest retailer in the United States. But that's not the whole story. Let's look at it from a technical point of view. So what you see here up there is an illustration that I think Fortinet put out that gives you sort of an aftermath of the actual path that the attackers took when they did target, when they did the attack. So let's start. They start by getting the credentials of Fazio, which is electricians from Fazio. They're the people that do the maintenance for the air conditioning in Target. They do it by using the Citadel, which is an offspring of Zeus malware, for those of you who are aware of that. And I won't go into each of the hops, but eventually what they do, they get to the stores or to the point of sales using what's called the Kartosha malware. And that's an interesting story. And actually, these guys did some pretty cool stuff along the way. But if you take a closer look, I think it looks more like this. It's sort of a cyber scene, crime, forensic, post-mortem explanation of what eventually happened. Because incidentally, if you were to buy both Citadel and Kartosha off the market, you'd probably get some change for $5,000, which is not a bad ROI if you think about 40 million credit cards and approximately 30 to 40 bucks off of each credit in the black market. You could get change for $5,000. So I urge you to look at something else in this picture which is not present there. And it's the people behind it. It's the decision-making behind it. Because what you see in the Fortinet path is the actual path that actually worked for them. But what you don't see is the timetable of how long it took. What you don't see is the road not taken. What you don't see are the dead ends that these people had to deal with along the way. What you don't see are the U-turns along the way. And if you would have seen all of these, it wouldn't be such a neat program as you see here in the target situation by Fortinet. Because you don't see the decision-making process behind it. So you don't see the mistakes behind it. And I must tell you that if we are to deal effectively with advanced persistent threat, we must take into consideration all those loops. And there, it would look more like a spaghetti thing if you would have seen everything that happened there along the way. So what do I think we should do? I think we should understand that advanced persistent threats are, at the end of the day, not about the malware. And at least in advanced persistent threat, we have to change our mindsets. And what do I mean by changing our mindsets? I mean we have to engage the puppet master. Because it's not about the puppet, it's about the master. It's about the people that you don't see in the back rooms. They're the masters. And we're after the puppets, which is the malware at the end. And that's not going to work for us. Why? Because we're missing out on an opportunity, and the opportunity is to leverage the human factor. Because at the end of the day, and Keith said it, and Giora said it, and Ben Israel said it, and we all know that there are people behind. And the people, like all of us, they get tired, they get sloppy, they get greedy, and they make mistakes. And their mistakes are an opportunity, and if we can take advantage of their mistakes and we can seize the opportunity, we can come up with a new approach. And the new approach that I suggest, which is already starting, and I think that's the way to go, but the new approach is to proactively disrupt the attack while it's happening. We have to use tools and techniques from within the network, where we have the upper hand. The defense has the upper hand in its own network. We know it best. So we can take tools and techniques from within the network that will take advantage of the human factor and create a situation where the offense makes more mistakes than we do on the defense. And if we can do that, we can eventually do the following. Flip the asymmetry. Because let's face it, we're in an asymmetric situation right now. The defense has to be perfect on every instance. Every single instance. We have to be perfect all the way, and otherwise the offense will have the upper hand. And this status quo is something that we cannot live with anymore if we want to solve the advanced persistent threat situation, which is essential to be solved if we want to prosper and bring all those cool technologies and stuff that we've been doing in the last decade or decades. Because if we can flip the asymmetry all of a sudden, it won't be the offense that looks at the defense and aggregates mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake, but vice versa. And what we can do, if we can do that, is we can take the initiative back to our hands. And if we can take the initiative back to our hands, we can flip the whole story. Because, guys, let's face it, the same thing that happened in Target, perhaps even the same people, are doing the same thing in Home Depot. And can we afford that in the future? And so we must change the way that we are looking at cyber defense, and specifically advanced persistent threat. And if I may, next 48 hours, next Cyber Week, you're going to be listening to the best in the industry. You're going to be listening to panelists. And I want you to take this thought about the human factor in cybersecurity. I want you to think about the fact that at the end of the day, it's about people and process. And people make mistakes, and processes are never perfect. And if we understand that, I think we can take the initiative back to our hands. And I suggest that you take that thought in the next couple of days when you're listening to the panelists. Before I go down, I'd like to thank Gili and Sadnat Yuval Ne'eman for having us here. I want to thank my dear friend for his kind words, Keith. Thank you very much for being here. It's a great pleasure. And we're off for another great journey without uniforms this time. And I wasn't planning to do this, but I'm going to say two sentences in Hebrew that have nothing to do with cybersecurity, but have to do with where we come from and where we live and how we should live in the place that we live. So I'm just going to say two sentences. לא התכוונתי להגיד את זה, אבל הרגשתי צורך בכל זאת. היומיים האחרונים יש סערת הסרבנים, מכתב הסרבנים, כולכם מכירים את זה. וזה לא המקום שלי לדבר על זה, אבל אני בכל זאת הרגשתי שזה לא יהיה נכון לא לומר את הדבר הבא. סרבנות היא סרבנות, גם אם היא מנוסחת היטב, אין מקום לסרבנות. אנחנו לא נוכל להתקיים כאן במדינה דמוקרטית עם השיח, וראוי לקיים שיח במדינה דמוקרטית, וטוב שיש שיח במדינה דמוקרטית, אבל יש מקום לקיים אותו, ואני אומר לכם בתור אזרח, בתור מפקד, בתור חייל, אין מקום לסרבנות מכל סוג שהוא, ובטח לא מהמקום שאנחנו באים ממנו. Guys, thank you very much, and have a good couple of days.